I think that the ultimate goal, so with goal versus method, the ultimate goal is to drive the Democrats because they are undeniably a large party. A lot of people are Democrats. They have the goal is to drive Democrats to the left. The goal is to drive them back to the left because the Republicans have been very, very successful in driving the Overton window in America to the right. They've been incredibly successful at that. And so,
Well, I mean, I would argue that that is not just the Republicans, but it was, the Clinton. I'm a fiscally conservative but socially liberal Democrat from that time period as well. They took the donors, they took a portion of the base. So in order to collect an equal-sized portion of the base, the Republicans went right, which helped to shift the Overton window to the right. They went way far right, further right than even Reagan did when he was courting the religious right on his run. But at the same time, both parties have been successfully pushing this country to the right since Clinton.
well, absolutely. So yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. The Democrats since Carter have also been shifting to the right. They've had different excuses for why they are shifting to the right. Of course, Bill Clinton was famous for his triangulation, and speaking. He would speak to the left, and then, well, the way he got popular was he would make promises to the left, and then he would renege on them for the right, and that was how he sort of maintained that popularity. Because he spoke nice progressive words to the left, and then he would immediately drop those promises. And
triangulation.
Yeah, triangulation. And so we got to this point where now people are seeing the results of this kind of separation between the class and the race, or the class and the factors, the other identity factors. So we say what occurs when you are economically conservative, quote unquote, but socially liberal, and why that doesn't actually work. And the reason why it doesn't actually work is because as economics go to the right, so do social things. It's like you can't, I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way. You can't have a society that is economically conservative but socially liberal in the way you think you can, because ultimately what occurs is that the most vulnerable populations are taking advantage of the worst by a conservative economy. Like the most vulnerable populations, the ones that you profess to care about, the women of color, indigenous populations, the handicapped, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They are the ones who find themselves overburdened by the economic conservatism. So all you end up doing is saying nice, pretty words to them while their lives are left in shambles. And then you wonder why they don't vote for you. You wonder why your social liberalism is not enough.
There's no integrity to your message, and when people cannot believe your message, they're not going to believe you're going to do what they're promising. So no one's going to come out, no one's going to rally, no one's going to go to the rallies, no one's going to organize door knocking. I mean, you guys were working, I'm sure some of you were working for Bernie on a day-to-day basis. I knocked doors. I hardly ever saw any Hillary Clinton door knockers. When I was out going to rallies in Rhode Island, I saw, I think it was 10,000 people for Bernie, and there was less than 800 for Hillary. When no one believes your message, they're not going to get off their ass to do anything.
I don't know. It's hard for me to re-legislate this primary. Like, I know people call for this kind of that people want a post-mortem on what occurred even now, like 3 months later. 3 months later from what occurred. But it's so hard when you talk about Hillary Clinton. It's so hard to pinpoint exactly what people like, what made her lose, because there were so many things. Yeah. Some of them illegitimate and some of them legitimate. Her personality was a big part of it, but also her track record and stuff like that. And when it comes down to it, like, let's go back to your original question. Do we want something new, or do we want to work within the Democratic Party? I don't know the answer to that. I know what the goal is, though. The goal is to shift the Overton window back to left. The goal is to explain to people that economic conservatism and being socially liberal but economic conservative does not work at the national level. It may work in your little ascriptive bubble. It may work when you're making 120K and all your friends are making 120K, and you have friends of color who make 120K, you have LGBTQ friends who make 120K, and so your entire friend group is a horizontal slice of society. Maybe it works then, but at the national level, it simply doesn't work. And I think that's why that's the bubble that we're talking about here. This notion that you can actually have social mobility and social equity and move towards social equity without a progressive economic message. And so the question you asked, well, Do we work from the inside, work from the outside? I don't know. We talk about this all the time, and I feel like I'm a broken record because the goal is to shift Democrats to the left, as I said. But I think that the Democratic Party, the structure of the party, what the party demands from you, not only these performances, like, because let's talk about Cory Booker's performance today, or Bernie Sanders paying lip service to Russia yesterday, or Keith Ellison paying lip service to the whole Hillary Clinton Russia thing, or Russian bots, or whatever you want to talk. Like, the demands in both ideology and performance are so high. They are just so high. You really do have to sell a little bit of your soul at every level you reach. That at a certain point, when you get to the top, what do you have left? Maybe it's better to push people from the outside. Maybe it's better to just keep your soul in struggle on the outside to demand, form a progressive coalition and just be purist. Like they say, we need a left tea party. We need a group of people who are not afraid to primary Democrats who don't do what they're supposed to do. We need a group of people out there who are absolutely purist, who are absolutely taking moral red lines in the sand. Oh, what's that? You have David Brock in your party? Well, I'm sorry. In the 1990s, David Brock wrote a character assassination of a sexually assaulted woman. That's a no-go. I can't support you because you work with David Brock. We need people who will say that. We need people who will say that and who will not be immediately called childish or irresponsible or cajoled by this Democratic elite who just, I hate to be crass and vulgar, but it's all me tonight, guys. So I might as well be who get their rocks off by being adults. Oh God, do the Democrats love to be the mature? Like whether you're watching Bill Maher or whether you're watching Sarah Silverman or Al Franken or any of these people who espouse that, they tell you about they tell you how progressive they are. But then when you actually try to engage in some real leftist politics, they go, that's childish. That's immature. Nah. Like we have to be willing to compromise. We have to be willing to, come out there and be in favor of what the Republicans want. It's like, no, I'm actually in favor of a little bit of purist in my politics. I want a little bit of purism in my politics, and I also want, childishly, I want my Democratic representatives to hate the Republicans. Like I want them to not be friends with them. I want them to have a working relationship. Like I wish that Harry Reid hated Mitch McConnell. Like actually, I wish that a picture of Cory Booker hanging out with Donald Trump didn't come out earlier today, where it's just like, we're just friends. It's like, no, I want you to hate each other. Like I want you to have a blood feud, like the Capulets and the Montagues.
Yeah, I mean, your action should match your rhetoric at the very least. I mean, when you're talking about this being treason and you're putting out things that are saying that Trump is going to bring back the Nazi Party, why are you normalizing his children and hanging out with all the people that supported him? It's hypocrisy, and you can't do that. Have integrity of your message and make people believe you and vote for you, like we just said. So I see where you're coming from. I don't necessarily think that every single person whose ideology differs from yours deserves that type of treatment, but people like Trump and Jeff Sessions definitely do.
Oh no, I agree. So don't get me wrong. And I think that this is a great point that you just made. Not everyone who disagrees with you should be. I'm not in favor of keeping people in the shadows. I think that's why we have what we have now. I think that the Democrats, like I said before, the Democrats' position on racism and sexism and whatever is that it's okay if it exists in these little populations in the South. It's okay if it exists in these poor areas. It's okay if it's, kind of the undercurrent of society. It's kind of just like undercurrent and the structure of society. It's okay there. And we won't, in our own racism and sexism and whatever, we won't call racism and sexism. That's the Klan. They're going extinct. Like they don't exist anymore. There's only like 1,000 of them. It's like, no, the Klan as we know it may not exist the way it used to. But there was a great interview with the ex-Klansman or ex-neo-Nazi on CNN a while ago, whose name I cannot remember, where he actually came out and said, he's like, honestly, what happened to the Klan, what happened to a lot of neo-Nazis who are a little bit older now is that they got older, they had kids, their kids were embarrassed by them. And so their ideology didn't quote unquote change. It just became more polite. And so, like your Klansmen, a lot of them, I hate to say because this is rude, they became Tea Partiers, for lack of a better word. They still practice radical right wing politics, but they just got rid of
as evidenced by Ben and my visit to the Tea Party in Massachusetts. The ideas that were normalized and what they considered to be, normal behavior of racism was shocking, honestly, but not shocking. You know what I mean? It was like they kept saying over and over again. I don't know if you guys listened to that conversation. Like we're just sick of talking about race, and they are talking to Ben, and Ben goes, well, some of us are sick of living it, and it was kind of made them think for a moment, but only for that moment. That little brief moment penetrated, and then it was washed away by the constant stream of racism that they've basically been indoctrinated into. And so while, like you said, the KKK might not exist, the problems that the KKK were fostering and the ideology is still there.
Exactly. And this is what I was going to say about the Democratic Party. They have been so clumsy and so specific in their definition of racism. They, like in winning the culture war, they feel inclined, or rather they feel privileged to define racism for the world. They want to define racism. They want to define sexism. They want to, point the finger at the Republican Party. Largely Democrats have tried their best to make racism and sexism essential qualities of certain groups of people based on geography, based on skin color, based on economic status. And so they've created this narrative for themselves in their own bubble that makes themselves feel good, that the only racists out there are these quote unquote poor Southern white males. These is it cis or psi? I never know. This is really bad because I should know. But that these straight hetero Christian males, they're the racists. Everyone else gets kind of a blank pass, and they've yet to turn that sort of mirror on themselves. Like, okay, well, we have very problematic elements of our own party here, and just because we're defining racism for ourselves to make in our own bubble to make ourselves feel good doesn't mean that our definition of racism is trickling out and making other people feel better about the way society is actually functioning. So yeah, they might have done their best to define racism for the world, but it has done little to soften the impact of racist politics and policies.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the 11 Democrats in South Carolina supported HB2.
Oh yeah, and HB2 wasn't just anti-trans person bill; it was also an anti-worker bill.
Yep.
So it's a really complicated thing.
Like if the Democratic Party came out as a whole and said hard red line, if you vote for any policies like this or right to work, you are no longer allowed in our party. That I can get behind, and that would be something that I would go to bat for them for.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted too. I want the Democrats to take some real hard red lines in their politics. I want them to say, listen, if you're in favor of right to work, you're out of here. Like if you're in favor of if you're not in favor of gay marriage vocally, you're out of here. Like if you're not in favor of $15 minimum wage, you're out of here. Like you're out of here. I'm sorry. Like you can't ride this train. You're too short to ride this ride. To get on this ride. But the Democratic Party can't afford to do that because so many people in democratic structure are not in favor of those things. And what they want to do is, they want to pettifog. They want to pettifog over the definition of racism, even though a lot of these definitions that they're trying to mobilize have no effect on real people's lives. And so it just becomes this problem where they're trying to define everyone's problem for them. And you see this online all the time. You see these people who are ostensibly organizers in political pundits and people who are ostensibly paid to have good ideas and tell them to people and organize them and connect with people, who are essentially getting online and telling people their problems. Was it Sally Albright got on Twitter today and explained how economic inequality was only a problem for the white man? And I was like, what the hell is this? Don't you get paid?
Sally Albright used to work for Newt Gingrich before she worked for Hillary, and before that she worked for a lobbying group for a mining company. She's not exactly the progressive spokesperson. She shouldn't even have been on Hillary Clinton's team.
But none of them are but none of them are progressive. And that's the thing. The Democratic establishment is not particularly progressive. They are not. Sally Albright is a good example of that. And H2 and the quote unquote bathroom bill in North Carolina is the best analog for the Democratic Party in their priorities that has ever existed. You have this bill that is full of anti-worker of regulation. You have this bill that's anti-union, that's anti a lot of things. But the part that the Democrat elite focus on, the Democrat establishment media focus on, transgender people can't go to the same bathroom. It's like, yes, that is a deal. Not the biggest deal in that bill, though. But they feel very comfortable in telling people what the big deal is.
Yeah. The messaging is completely off, and it never matches up with the action.
Oh yeah, it never matched up with their action. They did talk about race. They talk about Jeff Sessions, but Sean King and Sean King. I like Sean King's work sometimes. I think that he does a good service to the peoples. But on Twitter, he pointed out that, let's be honest, all of these white Democratic senators and espousing their love of the black man, quote unquote, none of them actually have black staffers.
Yeah, I saw that.
None of them have people of color. The only people who have people of color staff are the Republicans. And like, it's frustrating. It's frustrating watching them talk out of one side of their mouth and act out the other, because one of the questions becomes like, well, are they stupid or do you think we are? It's like, how stupid do they think we are? It's like, how stupid did the Democratic Party think that the voter was, that they could get these things past us? And the answer is that they think that we're pretty stupid. They think that I have the sneaking suspicion that the Democratic Party thinks that people are voting for them because they like them and not because they're being held hostage. And that's the saddest part. I think that they might have convinced themselves that people actually like their policies and that people care about them and people like Hillary Clinton when a large part of the population was being held hostage by her. Like the Democratic Party holds, I would say, decent people hostage.